Hey everybody, and in this video it's going to be a how-to with Jason Tonelli, the owner of Pacific Angler, on how to rig up and fish crippled anchovy rigs on the west coast. So let's get into it.
Bait cooler on top of the ice pack, and then that'll keep the water cold, and you have like some ice anchovies to start the day off with for the next day.
Okay, so put the ice pack where?
Under in here or whatever cooler.
Yeah.
Just put it down. And just you put your bait cooler on top of it.
I see.
Yeah, but if you haven't been out in a couple days and you're gonna fish anchovies, and you're gonna start fishing a lot of anchovies, like even when you're fishing West Van now,
yeah, you
should be fishing probably 50% anchovies. You'll get stale coho that don't want to bite hoochies anymore. And you'll start to pick up some of these Capilano Chinook gutters showing up and some of these Fraser Chinook gutters showing up. And so what you do...
And that's just because they get bored of the of looking at the spoons and the hoochies.
Yeah, and the Chinook always respond well to anchovies when they're off the river mouth. It's just what works the best. Like, sure, you can catch a few on spoons and hoochies, but bait just works a lot better because they're not really actively feeding anymore. So what you want to do, first thing when you come down, like the first thing you do before you do anything, is just get some bait on the brine. So you don't want to rip these off the tray. Because they'll rip a lot of samples off. So just get some water in there, and this will eventually peel off.
Where are these coming from?
I don't know, probably Washington.
Are they brined in anything, or is it just the salt water? It's
just we put that salt in there, and that's special brining salt. It's non-iodized. It's not table salt. It's like commercial brining salt. And so you want them to sit in there. So you always want to have some salt left in there, and that's gonna, as these thaw, they're gonna toughen up, and that brine's gonna toughen up the scales, toughen up the skin, toughen up the belly, so they don't fall apart. Just makes them more durable.
Let those stew.
Yeah. Shallow rod where there's still some sunlight hitting it. It's not a great one further down, like 55, 65, because it's too dark down there. So then a lot of times I'll want to get into your UV, or pardon me, your low greens. So like some sort of low green splatterback or glow bananas, or like one of these cool green chartreuse ones like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then your chrome on your top, and then maybe UV green one, and then getting into like your glow greens, something like that in terms of like color spectrum. So there's a couple different ways.
What do you call these?
That's a no bananas, that's a glow green chartreuse, and that's a glow green splatterback. Okay. But they all glow, and there's a lot of green in chartreuse. You're gonna notice, like, look at my box, it's like mostly green in chartreuse because it's that color shows up the best in the ocean, especially in the dirty water off the mouth of the Fraser. So that dirty water is only about like 10 or 15 feet thick, if that, probably 10, but it kind of creates like a dark blanket, so it's kind of dark under there. So the way that you tie these, there's two different ways to tie them. I'll show you. I'll do one with a treble and one with two singles. But you want to use 30-pound test. And you want about a 6-foot leader when you're done. So I'm 6 feet tall, so I usually go 6, and then like an extra 1.5 or so. And so first you tie on usually about a 4/0 trailer hook. And so we're gonna just take your 30-pound, and then you're just gonna do a bait loop. So in behind the eye, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pinch that down. some saliva on there so the line doesn't burn when you're pulling through. If you don't do that, you'll feel it heat up and you're burning it, weakening it. Crank on that. So that's my bait loop trailer hook, or just a snell knot. So turn that off. Now this is your treble, which is going to be mid-body on the anchovy.
Do you use the same knot, or do you use like a knotless knot?
Yeah.
The same knot? No.
Yeah. And so what you do is so this is a little trick here, George. So you'll see like this is like actually a 2-prong hook with a 3rd hook welded on. You see there's like a little bit of an edge right there.
Yeah.
So you want to put the line on the flat part like that. And then you're going to slide it all the way down. And you want not very much of a gap, like about like that, so about an inch from here to here. And then you get the first wrap. So because I went on the flat part, see how the first wrap just goes in front there.
Yeah.
You see that? And the second wrap goes up on top.
Yeah, go back one. Okay, I see.
First is in front and the second's on top. That's important, so it doesn't cut itself.
Gotcha.
And then 5 wraps
along the shank.
This is the hard part because you have to hold those wraps.
So they're like layered on top of each other?
Yeah, and
like,
then I'm going to put this line back through in the same spot that I put it in the first time, like that, right?
Yeah.
Don't pull it all the way through, and then just 1, 2, 3, 4,
Right.
5. And then this is another good trick. Like, see, I'm using my fingers to hold this line on my leg, to hold this line away, because these loops want to come up and get caught on that trailer hook. So I'm protecting that, because it'll come up around and catch it, and you're just kind of screwed. And then you have this loop here. This loop sometimes will want to kind of come in behind the treble. If that happens, you got to start again, because it'll cut itself. So it ends up being like that. Then you take your teaser head of choice, and this goes through here. You'll want to watch this. So it goes through here, and then through this port, and then up the top. Which is there. Sometimes you have to clear out that hole in the hook or something like that. It's like a little bit of paint in it.
Oh, that little hole at the top.
Yeah. Okay, so it goes through here, and up here. These holes are for if you want to put a piece of wire in, which you don't need to do, and then these are for toothpicks or for the pegs.
Right.
And then so that's gonna slide that all the way down. You want to make sure you have lots of dry toothpicks. This is important. You're gonna want to make sure you have toothpicks. You can't fish bait without toothpicks, because this is going to go in here, and you push that in as far as you can, and then snap it off.
Gotcha.
And that's going to set the tension when you, so we're going to put an anchovy in here, put this hook in the mid-body and create a bit of a bend, and by pulling on this line and it's tight in that toothpick is what holds the bend in place.
Oh, okay.
So I want to, you're going to need a pin, so this pin is what's going to hold the anchovy in place, and then that just goes in there like that. So a couple tricks. Let me get my pliers. Sometimes on some teaser heads, it just depends on when they came out of the factory. Sometimes this pin's too loose, and it's going to fall out every time. It's going to drive you crazy, and you're going to lose a whole bunch of pins.
Yeah.
So you need to have extra pins.
Okay.
So what you have to do is, if you just take your pliers and just squish this peg a little bit to make it a bit wider, it won't fall out so easy. So that's a good trick. Sometimes sometimes the pin is really, really stiff and it's like really, really hard to get in there, and it like drives you crazy. If you take your knife and you just open the hole up a little bit, you can get a better fit. So that's easier now.
Nice.
So you have to customize your teaser heads a little bit. So on your list, you want to make sure you have round toothpicks and extra teaser head pins.
Okay.
So now you have this anchovy leader, and you want it to be about 6 feet long. So that's 6 feet. Cut that off. And with bait, it's critical you use a 6-ball bead chain. So you're going to want to load up on 6-ball bead chains, because the thing's spinning like crazy, right? Like 1,000 times. So it's important you have a good 6-ball bead chain swivel. And I just use a basic clinch knot. So 1, 2, 3, about 6 or 7 times with 30-pound tests.
I remember when I was fishing with my dad, and we're using a 40-pound leader or something.
Yeah.
Why do you go with the?
Probably for Gucci's.
Yeah.
Why is the difference? Why go with the 30 with these guys?
For Hoochies, you want a stiff line because the rotation of the flasher is what moves the Hoochie. So I use 50 or 60 even, and it kicks the Hoochie around a little bit more because it's like more like wire. But you don't want a thick, heavy mono when you're fishing bait because it's going to slow down the action of your bait. Okay. So that's an anchovy rig. So you're gonna want a bunch of those tied up real quick. And you
That's about an inch, you say, right?
Yeah, and you could go like more or less. That's probably, you don't want to go any more than that.
Yeah.
For some of the smaller anchovies we have, that might even be a bit too long, but that's okay.
Gotcha.
So I like to put those in there like that. Bring this back around, and
I've got some homework to do.
yeah.
How many of those usually tie up?
Like you want to have a dozen ready to go at any given time. Like you could go out there and have like a banner day, and like you're gonna lose. Guys might break some fish off. You might lose a few trailer hooks in the net. So, and you might even have to tie some on the water. But you want probably a couple leaderboards ready to go. And I just tuck that in there. So that's a chrome one. Another way to do it, which I've been doing a little bit more actually, is 2 single hooks. Because when I'm releasing fish with the trebles, using a gaff to release the fish with the treble is super hard. And with the singles, you can get the gaff in there and flip the fish off, but it's really hard to flip a fish off with the treble, and you damage the knot because the plier hits the knot, and then that leader's toast anyway. So for this one, you just go 5.
It's the same bait loop knot.
Same knot, yeah. It's a little bit easier to tie it with 2 singles. So this is just like tying a hoochie leader.
I had him tying a bunch up for me.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So then you're just gonna slide down your second hook, right?
Yeah.
So you're sliding it all the way down. You're gonna do similar spacing somewhere around there, and then right in behind. gotta watch that so it doesn't get like that. So I mean that's a hoochie leader. You can use it as a cut plug leader.
So for the cut plugs, you want the hooks the same way then?
Well, you won't be running any cut plugs, just baits and teaser heads, because we're running.
Or I meant, yeah, for what we're doing here, you want the hooks running the same way. Like for the hoochies, you had the opposite way?
It doesn't really matter for this. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, for this it does. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Slide that down. Toothpick. Jam that in there. Snap that off. 6 feet. Perfect.
So it goes through that and then
Through that
hole,
port and then up through the top.
Okay. So.
Yeah.
And then what's the spacing from the toothpick to the last hook?
It'll depend on the size of the anchovy and where you set that hook, which I'll show you guys.
Because with the toothpick, you can adjust it, I guess, on the fly. Then.
Yeah, it's the toothpicks to provide tension. I'll show you. It's not gonna. It's kind of hard to explain.
Did you ever do a treble hook on the trailing?
Some people do. Yep. Some people do single mid-body and treble trailer, but or treble, but that's a lot of.
Much, I would say.
What's that?
I'd say they don't want to shake off as easily.
I find honestly if you get a big 4-aught in there, like versus just like the treble, you don't often get all 3 hooks in there.
Yeah.
You get a pretty positive hookup.
Are they just like?
But you're gonna get pinks. You're gonna get wild coho. You're gonna get a lot of Chinook jack stuff that you have to let go, and you're down there at the side of the boat. This thing's all over the place, and it's splashing. You get your sunglasses all salty, and you're trying to get your needle nose pliers in there to get it off, and you got to get that little part of the hook. You can't touch the knot. You touch the knot, and now you can't fish that leader. Like I just find the trebles are a major pain in the ass, especially on a pinkier. And there's lots of pinks around because they like bait. So. Right, so that's how I used to fish. This is how I fish now. Because we're doing Avid Angler DNA today, we're going to be wanting to release fish as easily as possible. I'm going to tie up the rest with single.
Really sharp.
Yeah, and they sharpen up really, really well.
VMC Permasteels?
Yeah. Hard to find. You can go 55. I'll go 45. So I'll show you how to get these baits up. So they're starting to firm up a little bit. See how the skin's getting a little firmer? It'll take a while yet. But I'm gonna put the head in like that. Jam it in there. So like the belly comes down with that swoop. Now if you had a treble, you just stick the treble right there and push it flat. But because I'm fishing a single, I'm going to take that single hook, point it towards the tail, and just flip it over like that. And then, so I got that toothpick there that's creating tension, right?
Yeah.
So this is just going to sit back there like that, and you only want a little bit of a bend in the anchovy like that. So if I suck up on this with the toothpick,
It's more bend.
it's going to put a bend in it, and that's just going to hold it there like that. So I'll show you what that looks like.
That trailing hook, you don't. Oh, nice. That looks good.
Yeah, that's it.
That trailing hook isn't swinging around like outside.
It's just sitting back there.
That's good.
So I go like
Nice.
15 feet, so and I'm gonna go 45 on this one. Yeah. And go shallow. Go shallow. No, you just want to go shallow under the skin. Yeah, exactly.
Like
yeah, and flip it right over. Yeah. Exactly.
And then snug this baby up.
Yeah, and then give it a bit of a bend first, and that's kind of what will hold it. Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah, that's it. You kind of have to go, and then sort of snug it up like that. Yeah, that's perfect. That's gonna look good. You can